On a distant planet, the ruthless alien commander Zorax sat in his spaceship, plotting his next move. He had his sights set on Earth, a planet teeming with resources and ripe for conquest. But Zorax knew that humans, despite their relatively primitive technology, were not to be underestimated. They had a knack for resilience and resourcefulness that had thwarted many alien invasions before. Zorax needed a new strategy, a way to crush the human spirit and make them submit to his rule. As he pondered, a wicked grin spread across his face. He had an idea, a terrifying, monstrous idea. He would unleash a beast upon the earth, a creature so frightening and powerful that it would bring humanity to its knees. The alien commander summoned his top scientists to his chambers. "I have a task for you," Zorax declared, his voice echoing through the metallic room. "I need you to create a beast, a monster that will strike fear into the hearts of the humans and make them bow before me." The scientists, a group of spindly, pale-skinned creatures, nodded their obedience. They scurried off to their laboratories, determined to fulfill their commander's wishes. For days and nights, the scientists worked tirelessly. They used the most advanced alien technologies and genetic engineering techniques to create the ultimate weapon. They took DNA from the most fearsome predators across the galaxy and combined it into one terrifying creature. Finally, after weeks of toil, the beast was ready. It stood over 10 feet tall, with razor-sharp claws, gleaming fangs, and a hide that could withstand even the most powerful human weapons. Its eyes glowed an eerie red, and its roar shook the very foundations of the spaceship. Zorax looked upon his creation with a sense of deep satisfaction. "Excellent work," he praised his scientists. "This beast will be the key to our victory over the humans. We shall call it the Devastator." The scientists beamed with pride at their commander's approval. They had created the ultimate instrument of destruction, a monster that would make the humans tremble in fear. Zorax wasted no time in putting his plan into action. He ordered his fleet to set a course for Earth, with the Devastator securely contained in the hold of his ship. As they traveled through the vast expanse of space, Zorax could barely contain his excitement. He imagined the look of terror on the humans' faces when they saw the beast he had unleashed upon them. Finally, after a journey of many light years, they arrived at Earth. Zorax looked down at the blue and green planet, a malevolent gleam in his eye. Soon, he whispered to himself, "This world will be mine." He turned to his second-in-command, a tall, muscular alien named Kragoth. "Prepare the Devastator for release," Zorax ordered. "It's time to show these humans the true meaning of fear." Kragoth nodded and hurried off to carry out his commander's orders. In the hold of the ship, the Devastator stirred, sensing that its moment had come. It let out a low, menacing growl, eager to be unleashed upon its unsuspecting prey. As the ship hovered above Earth's atmosphere, Zorax gave the signal. The hold doors opened, and the Devastator plummeted towards the planet's surface, ready to begin its mission of terror and destruction. On Earth, life went on as usual, with humans blissfully unaware of the horror that was about to be unleashed upon them. Little did they know that their world was about to be forever changed by the arrival of the Devastator, the most terrifying creature the galaxy had ever seen. Zorax watched from his ship, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "Let the games begin," he whispered, as the Devastator hurtled towards Earth, ready to unleash chaos and fear upon the unsuspecting human race. In the high-tech laboratories of the alien spaceship, the scientists worked tirelessly to fulfill Commander Zorax's orders. They had been tasked with creating the ultimate beast, a creature that would strike fear into the hearts of the humans and make them submit to alien rule. The lead scientist, a brilliant but twisted alien named Dr. Zorgax, oversaw the project with a manic gleam in his eye. He had always dreamed of creating the perfect biological weapon, and now he had the chance to make his mark on the galaxy. Under Dr. Zorgax's guidance, the scientists began to construct the beast. They started with a base of DNA from the most fearsome predators in the universe. the razor-toothed Carnaxian wolf, the venomous Zorgian viper, and the bone-crushing Thorgian ape. They combined these strands with advanced alien genetic material designed to enhance the creature's strength, speed, and intelligence. As the beast began to take shape in the cloning tanks, the scientists marveled at their creation. It was a true monstrosity, with a body that rippled with muscle, claws that could slice through steel, and jaws that could crush bone. But Dr. Zorgax wasn't satisfied yet. He wanted to make the beast even more terrifying, even more deadly. He ordered his team to implant the beast with advanced alien technologies. They gave it a cloaking device that would allow it to become invisible, making it almost impossible for the humans to detect. They equipped it with a plasma cannon built into its chest, capable of incinerating targets from miles away. And they gave it a neural link to the alien ship's computers, allowing Zorax and his crew to control the beast's every move. As the final touches were put on the beast, Dr. Zorgax couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had created the ultimate weapon, a creature that would make the humans tremble in fear. He named it the Devastator, a fitting title for a monster designed to bring about the end of human civilization. But Dr. Zorgax knew that creating the beast was only half the battle. They still needed to train it, to mold it into the perfect instrument of destruction. And so, the scientists began to put the Devastator through a series of grueling tests and simulations designed to hone its killing instincts and make it an unstoppable force of nature. They pitted the Devastator against holographic projections of human soldiers, watching with glee as it tore through their ranks with ease. They exposed it to the harshest environments the galaxy had to offer, from the searing heat of the Zorgian desert to the bone-chilling cold of the Thorgian tundra. And through it all, the Devastator only grew stronger, more resilient, and more deadly. As the training neared its end, Dr. Zorgax couldn't help but marvel at the creature he had created. The Devastator was a true work of art, a masterpiece of alien science and technology. And soon, very soon, it would be unleashed upon the unsuspecting people of Earth. Commander Zorax was pleased with the progress reports he received from Dr. Zorgax. The beast was exceeding all expectations, and the time was drawing near to launch their attack on Earth. Zorax could almost taste the victory that awaited him, the glory of being the one to finally conquer the human race. And so, with the Devastator fully trained and ready for battle, Zorax gave the order to begin the invasion. The alien fleet set course for Earth, the Devastator securely contained within the bowels of the ship. As they drew closer to the blue and green planet, Zorax could feel his excitement growing. Soon, very soon, the humans would learn the true meaning of fear, and the galaxy would tremble before the might of the alien empire. On Earth, life continued as normal, with the people blissfully unaware of the horror that was hurtling towards them through the cold depths of space. But little did they know that their world was about to be plunged into a nightmare beyond their wildest imaginings, a nightmare that would test their strength, their courage, and their very will to survive. As the alien spaceship hovered menacingly above Earth's atmosphere, Commander Zorax gave the order to release the Devastator. With a hiss of hydraulics, the containment pod opened, and the beast plummeted towards the planet's surface, ready to begin its mission of terror and destruction. The Devastator landed in a remote, heavily forested area, its impact leaving a crater in the earth. As it emerged from the dust and debris, it let out a roar that echoed through the trees, a sound that would soon become the stuff of nightmares for the people of Earth. Guided by its alien masters, the Devastator set out to find its first targets. It lumbered through the forest, its cloaking device rendering it almost invisible to the human eye. Its sensors scanned the area, searching for any signs of life. It didn't take long for the beast to find what it was looking for. On the outskirts of a small rural town, a group of campers had set up their tents for the night. They sat around a flickering campfire, laughing and telling stories, unaware of the horror that was creeping towards them. The Devastator approached the campsite silently, its movements masked by the sounds of the forest. Then, with a sudden burst of speed, it attacked. The campers didn't even have time to scream before the beast was upon them, its claws and fangs tearing through flesh and bone. Within minutes, the campsite was a scene of carnage. Bodies lay strewn about, torn and mangled beyond recognition. The Devastator stood amidst the destruction, its muzzle dripping with blood, its eyes glowing with a malevolent red light. But the beast's rampage was far from over. Guided by its alien overlords, it set out towards the nearby town, ready to bring its reign of terror to the unsuspecting populace. As the Devastator entered the town, chaos erupted. People screamed in horror as the invisible beast tore through the streets, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Cars were crushed like tin cans, buildings were reduced to rubble, and bodies littered the streets. The local police force was quickly overwhelmed. Their bullets seemed to have no effect on the Devastator's tough hide, and their attempts to stop the beast only resulted in more casualties. It seemed that nothing could stand in the way of the alien monster's rampage. From his ship in orbit, Commander Zorax watched the destruction with a sadistic grin. The Devastator was performing even better than he had hoped, and the humans were proving to be even more helpless than he had imagined. He knew that it was only a matter of time before the entire planet fell under his control. But as the Devastator continued its rampage, moving from town to town and leaving a trail of destruction in its wake, something unexpected happened. The humans, despite their terror and their losses, began to fight back. In one town, a brave group of citizens banded together to create a makeshift barricade, using cars and rubble to block the Devastator's path. In another, the local military base deployed its heaviest weapons, raining down artillery fire on the beast. And in yet another town, a small group of scientists worked feverishly to develop a weapon that could stop the Devastator in its tracks. They had analyzed the beast's biology and discovered a potential weakness, a chink in its armor that could be exploited. As news of these pockets of resistance spread, hope began to grow among the people of Earth. They realized that they were not helpless, that they could fight back against the alien invaders and their monstrous creation. But Commander Zorax was not about to let his plans be thwarted so easily. He ordered the Devastator to redouble its efforts, to crush the human resistance and complete its mission of conquest. The stage was set for a final, epic battle between the humans and the alien beast. The fate of the entire planet hung in the balance, and only one side could emerge victorious. Would the Devastator succeed in its mission of destruction, or would the humans find a way to stop the unstoppable and save their world from the alien menace? As the Devastator continued its rampage across the Earth, leaving a trail of destruction and terror in its wake, the leaders of the world's nations knew they had to act fast. They gathered together in an emergency meeting, desperate to find a way to stop the alien menace before it was too late. It was at this meeting that they learned of the existence of a secret organization known as the Global Defense Initiative, GDI. The GDI was a highly trained, well-equipped force that had been created for just such an emergency, and its members were ready and willing to take on the Devastator. Leading the GDI was a brilliant and fearless woman named Commander Sarah Briggs. She had risen through the ranks of the military with a reputation for being tough, decisive, and unafraid to take risks. When the world's leaders asked her to take on the Devastator, she didn't hesitate. Commander Briggs gathered her team and set out to track down the alien beast. They used every tool at their disposal: satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and advanced sensor technology to try to locate the Devastator. But the beast's cloaking device made it almost impossible to detect, and the GDI found itself always one step behind. As the Devastator continued to wreak havoc, Commander Briggs grew increasingly frustrated. She knew that every minute they delayed, more innocent lives were being lost. She needed to find a way to draw the beast out into the open, to force it into a confrontation. And then she had an idea. The Devastator seemed to be targeting population centers, areas where it could cause the most damage and terror. What if they could lure it to a specific location, a place where the GDI could be waiting in ambush. Commander Briggs chose a remote, abandoned industrial complex as the site for their trap. She positioned her team around the perimeter, armed with the heaviest weapons they could muster. And then she sent out a signal, a pulse of energy designed to attract the Devastator's attention. It worked. The beast picked up the signal and began to move towards the complex, its cloaking device shimmering as it passed through the abandoned buildings. As soon as it was in range, Commander Briggs gave the order to attack. The GDI opened fire with everything they had: missiles, grenades, and high-powered energy weapons. The Devastator roared in pain and anger as the weapons struck its hide, but it kept coming, its eyes fixed on the humans who dared to stand in its way. The battle was intense and brutal. The Devastator lashed out with its claws and fangs, tearing through the GDI's defenses with ease. But the humans fought back with everything they had, determined to bring the beast down. In the end, it was Commander Briggs who dealt the final blow. She had managed to get in close to the Devastator, dodging its attacks and firing her weapon at point-blank range. The beast stumbled and fell, its cloaking device flickering and dying as it hit the ground. But even as the GDI celebrated their victory, they knew that the battle was far from over. The Devastator was just one of many weapons the aliens had at their disposal, and they would not rest until the Earth was under their control. As Commander Briggs looked out over the ruins of the industrial complex, she knew that the fight was just beginning. The GDI would need to be vigilant, ready to defend against any new threats that might arise. And she would need to lead them, to keep them focused and motivated in the face of an enemy that seemed almost unstoppable. But for now, at least, they had won a small victory. The Devastator was dead, and the people of Earth could breathe a little easier knowing that there were those who were willing to fight for them, to stand up against the alien menace no matter the cost. The battle for Earth's survival had only just begun, but with Commander Briggs and the GDI leading the charge, there was still hope for the future. The battle between the Global Defense Initiative, GDI, and the Devastator had been intense and brutal. The alien beast had proven to be a formidable opponent, its advanced technology and raw strength making it seem almost invincible. But the GDI, led by the brave and determined Commander Sarah Briggs, had managed to bring the creature down, saving countless lives in the process. However, their victory was short-lived. As the dust settled and the GDI began to assess the damage, they received an urgent message from their satellites in orbit. Another alien ship had been detected entering Earth's atmosphere, and it was heading straight for their location. Commander Briggs knew that they had to act fast. She ordered her team to regroup and prepare for another battle, even as they tended to their wounds and mourned their losses. They set up a defensive perimeter around the industrial complex, determined to hold the line against whatever new threat the aliens had in store. As the alien ship descended from the sky, the GDI braced themselves for the worst. They watched in horror as the ship opened its massive cargo bay doors, revealing not one, but a dozen new Devastators, each one larger and more terrifying than the last. The aliens had learned from their previous defeat, and they had come prepared. The new Devastators were equipped with even more advanced weaponry and armor, making them almost impervious to the GDI's attacks. They swept through the defensive perimeter like a tidal wave, crushing everything in their path. The battle that followed was unlike anything the GDI had ever experienced. The Devastators attacked with a ferocity and coordination that was almost unheard of, their movements guided by some unseen alien intelligence. The humans fought back with everything they had, but it seemed like nothing could stop the relentless advance of the alien beasts. In the midst of the chaos, Commander Briggs found herself face to face with one of the Devastators. She had been separated from her team, and she knew that she was outmatched. But she refused to give up. She drew her weapon and prepared to make her final stand. Just as the Devastator was about to strike, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a young soldier named John, one of the newest recruits to the GDI. He had been watching Commander Briggs, and he had seen the bravery and determination with which she fought. He knew that he had to help her, no matter the cost. John charged towards the Devastator, firing his weapon with everything he had. The beast turned towards him, its eyes glowing with malevolent energy. But John didn't falter. He continued to advance, even as the Devastator's claws raked across his armor, tearing through the metal like paper. Commander Briggs watched in amazement as John battled the Devastator, his bravery and skill almost superhuman. She knew that she had to help him, to give him a chance to succeed where she had failed. With a final burst of energy, Commander Briggs launched herself at the Devastator, her weapon blazing. The beast roared in pain and anger as the two humans attacked it from both sides, their combined strength finally beginning to overwhelm its defenses. But even as they fought, Commander Briggs knew that they were running out of time. The other Devastators were closing in, and soon they would be overwhelmed. They needed a miracle, a way to turn the tide of the battle before it was too late. And then, just when all hope seemed lost, they heard a sound that made their hearts leap with joy. It was the sound of reinforcements, of the other GDI teams that had been scattered across the globe. They had heard the call to arms, and they had come to join the fight. With renewed strength and determination, the GDI launched a final, desperate assault against the Devastators. They fought with everything they had, their weapons and armor pushed to the very limits of their endurance. And slowly, painfully, they began to push the alien beasts back, to reclaim the ground that had been lost. In the end, it was John who dealt the final blow. With a last, heroic effort, he managed to get close enough to the lead Devastator to plant an explosive charge on its armor. The blast was deafening, and for a moment, everything was lost in a blinding flash of light. When the smoke cleared, the Devastators lay defeated, their once mighty forms now nothing more than twisted heaps of metal and flesh. The GDI had won, but the cost had been high. Many brave soldiers had lost their lives in the battle, and the scars of the conflict would linger long after the last of the alien beasts had been destroyed. But for now, at least, the Earth was safe. The GDI had proven that humanity would not go down without a fight, that they would stand together against any threat, no matter how powerful. And as Commander Briggs looked out over the battlefield, she knew that as long as there were people like John, people who were willing to sacrifice everything for the greater good, there would always be hope for the future. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Devastators had been defeated, but the alien threat still loomed large over the Earth. The Global Defense Initiative, GDI, knew that they had to stay vigilant, ready to defend against any new attacks that might come their way. As the GDI regrouped and tended to their wounds, Commander Sarah Briggs received a message from headquarters. They had intercepted an alien transmission, and what they had discovered was deeply troubling. The aliens, it seemed, had a secret weapon, a creature even more powerful and terrifying than the Devastators. They called it the Annihilator, and according to the transmission, it was already on its way to Earth. Commander Briggs knew that they had to act fast. She gathered her team and set out to intercept the Annihilator before it could reach its target. They tracked the creature's trajectory and discovered that it was heading towards a densely populated city, intent on causing as much destruction and loss of life as possible. The GDI set up a defensive perimeter around the city, determined to stop the Annihilator at any cost. They knew that the creature would be unlike anything they had ever faced before, but they were ready to give everything they had to protect the innocent lives that hung in the balance. As the Annihilator entered the city, the GDI launched their attack. They hit the creature with everything they had, but it seemed to shrug off their weapons like they were nothing. Its armor was impenetrable, and its weapons were more powerful than anything the GDI had ever seen. The battle raged on for hours, with the GDI slowly being pushed back by the relentless advance of the Annihilator. Commander Briggs knew that they were running out of options, and she feared that the city would soon be lost. But then, at the darkest moment of the battle, a lone figure emerged from the ruins of a collapsed building. It was John, the brave soldier who had saved Commander Briggs' life in the previous battle. John had been badly injured in the fight against the Devastators, and he had been left behind when the GDI moved on to intercept the Annihilator. But he had refused to give up. With sheer determination and willpower, he had dragged himself out of the rubble and set out to join his comrades in the fight. As John limped towards the Annihilator, his weapon held high, Commander Briggs felt a surge of hope. She knew that if anyone could find a way to stop the creature, it was John. And then, to everyone's amazement, John did something that no one had ever seen before. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, fuzzy object. It was a puppy, a tiny creature that looked completely out of place on the battlefield. John held the puppy up high, and the Annihilator suddenly stopped in its tracks. It seemed to be transfixed by the sight of the small, innocent creature, its eyes locked onto the puppy as if it were the most fascinating thing in the world. And then, slowly, impossibly, the Annihilator began to change. Its armor retracted, revealing a soft, furry body beneath. Its weapons fell away, and it let out a gentle, almost plaintive whine. The Annihilator, it seemed, had a weakness after all. Despite all its power and advanced technology, it was still a living creature, with the same basic needs and desires as any other. And in that moment, confronted by the pure, innocent love of a puppy, it had found itself unable to resist. As the Annihilator lay down at John's feet, nuzzling the puppy with its massive head, the GDI watched in amazement. They had never seen anything like it before, and they knew that they had just witnessed something truly incredible. In the end, it was not weapons or armor that had saved the day, but the simple, unconditional love of a small furry creature. And as the GDI celebrated their victory, they knew that they had learned a valuable lesson. No matter how powerful or advanced the enemy might seem, there was always hope. There was always a way to find common ground, to connect with the basic humanity that existed in all living things. And as long as they remembered that lesson, they knew that they would always have a chance to build a better, more peaceful future for all. The sight of the Annihilator, the most fearsome and powerful of all the alien creatures, nuzzling and playing with a tiny, adorable puppy was something that no one could have ever imagined. The members of the Global Defense Initiative, GDI, watched in awe as the massive armored beast rolled onto its back, allowing the puppy to climb all over it and lick its face. For a moment, the battlefield was silent, save for the happy yips and barks of the puppy as it played with its new friend. The GDI soldiers lowered their weapons, their faces a mix of relief, confusion, and amazement. Commander Sarah Briggs stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder. She had seen many things in her time as a soldier, but nothing could have prepared her for this. She watched as John, the brave soldier who had brought the puppy onto the battlefield, sat down beside the Annihilator and began to pet its massive head. As the minutes passed, the Annihilator's behavior began to change. It became more playful, more relaxed, and more affectionate towards the puppy and John. It was as if the creature had suddenly remembered what it was like to be a living being, with feelings and emotions just like any other. The GDI soldiers began to approach cautiously, their weapons still at the ready. But as they drew closer, they saw that there was no need for fear. The Annihilator was completely focused on the puppy and showed no signs of aggression or hostility towards the humans. Commander Briggs knelt down beside John and the Annihilator, her hand trembling slightly as she reached out to touch the creature's armor. To her surprise, the Annihilator leaned into her touch, its eyes closing in contentment. "I can't believe it," Commander Briggs whispered. "All this time, we've been fighting against these creatures, thinking that they were nothing more than mindless killing machines. But look at it now. It's just like any other living being, with the capacity for love and affection." John nodded, his eyes shining with tears. "I knew that there had to be more to them than just violence and destruction," he said. "I could see it in their eyes, even when they were attacking us. There was a spark of something there, something that we could never quite understand." As word of the Annihilator's transformation spread, the other alien creatures began to emerge from their hiding places. They approached the GDI soldiers cautiously, their weapons lowered and their eyes filled with a new kind of curiosity. The soldiers tensed, ready for a fight. But as the creatures drew closer, they saw that there was no need for violence. The aliens were just as fascinated by the puppy as the Annihilator had been, and they seemed to be more interested in playing and exploring than in attacking. In the days that followed, the GDI and the aliens began to work together to rebuild the cities that had been destroyed in the fighting. The Annihilator and its fellow creatures used their incredible strength and technology to clear away the rubble and debris, while the humans worked to restore power, water, and other essential services. As the two sides worked side by side, they began to learn from each other. The aliens shared their advanced knowledge of science and technology with the humans, while the humans taught the aliens about the importance of compassion, empathy, and love. In the end, it was the puppy that had brought them all together. The tiny, innocent creature had shown them that there was more to life than just fighting and destruction. It had reminded them of the beauty and wonder that existed in the world, and of the power of love to overcome even the deepest of differences. As the GDI and the aliens looked to the future, they knew that there would be challenges ahead. There would be misunderstandings and disagreements, just as there had been in the past. But they also knew that they had the tools and the wisdom to overcome those challenges and to build a better world for all. And so, with the puppy leading the way, the humans and the aliens set out on a new journey together, ready to face whatever the future might bring. They had learned that there was more to life than just survival, and that by working together, they could achieve things that they had never dreamed possible. The once fearsome Annihilator now served as a symbol of the power of love and understanding, a reminder that even the most unlikely of friendships could change the world forever. As the humans and the aliens worked together to rebuild the war-torn Earth, a new era of peace and prosperity seemed to be dawning. The once fearsome Annihilator had become a symbol of the power of love and understanding, and its transformation had inspired countless others to lay down their weapons and embrace a new way of life. But not everyone was happy with the new status quo. Deep within the ranks of the alien army, a small group of hardliners refused to accept the idea of peace with the humans. They saw the Annihilator's change of heart as a betrayal of everything they had fought for, and they were determined to carry on the war at any cost. Led by a ruthless and cunning commander named Zorgax, the hardliners began to plot their next move. They knew that they could not hope to defeat the combined forces of the humans and the friendly aliens in open battle, so they decided to strike from the shadows instead. Under the cover of darkness, Zorgax and his followers snuck into the city where the humans and the aliens were working together to rebuild. They made their way to the central power plant, where they planted a series of powerful explosives. Their plan was simple but devastating. They would blow up the power plant, plunging the city into darkness and chaos. In the confusion, they would launch a surprise attack on the unsuspecting humans and aliens, hoping to catch them off guard and destroy them once and for all. But what Zorgax and his followers didn't count on was the bravery and quick thinking of a small group of human and alien soldiers, led by none other than Commander Sarah Briggs and her faithful companion John. As soon as the explosions rocked the city, Sarah and John sprang into action. They quickly organized a defense, positioning their troops around the perimeter of the power plant and preparing for the worst. The hardliners attacked with all the fury of a cornered animal, but Sarah and John's forces held their ground. They fought bravely, using every weapon and tactic at their disposal to keep the enemy at bay. In the midst of the chaos, the Annihilator suddenly appeared, its massive form looming over the battlefield like a guardian angel. It let out a deafening roar, and the hardliners faltered, their resolve crumbling in the face of such raw power. But Zorgax was not so easily deterred. He ordered his troops to press on, urging them to fight to the last man. And so the battle raged on, with the fate of the city hanging in the balance. Just when all seemed lost, the puppy that had started it all suddenly appeared on the battlefield. It ran straight toward Zorgax, its tiny tail wagging furiously. At first, Zorgax tried to swat the puppy away, but it was persistent. It kept coming back, nuzzling his hand, and looking up at him with big, soulful eyes. And then something incredible happened. Zorgax's hardened exterior began to crack, and a single tear rolled down his cheek. He looked down at the puppy, and he saw in its eyes the same love and compassion that had transformed the annihilator. In that moment, Zorgax realized the truth. He had been fighting for the wrong reasons, and he had been blind to the beauty and wonder of the world around him. He dropped his weapon and fell to his knees, overcome with emotion. The battle came to an abrupt end, as the hardliners saw their leader surrender. They too laid down their arms, and a cheer went up from the human and alien soldiers. In the days that followed, Zorgax and his followers joined the rest of the aliens in their efforts to rebuild and restore the Earth. They worked side by side with the humans, learning from them and teaching them in turn. And through it all, the puppy was there, a constant reminder of the power of love and the importance of compassion. It played with the children, comforted the wounded, and brought joy to all who saw it. As the years passed, the Earth was transformed, the cities were rebuilt, and a new era of peace and prosperity dawned. And at the center of it all was the puppy, now grown into a wise and gentle old dog, beloved by all whom knew it. The humans and the aliens had learned a valuable lesson, one that they would never forget. They had learned that love was the most powerful force in the universe, capable of overcoming any obstacle and bringing even the most unlikely of creatures together. And as they looked to the future, they knew that they would face many more challenges and trials. But they also knew that as long as they had each other, and as long as they held on to the power of love, there was nothing they could not achieve. The once fearsome annihilator and the tiny, brave puppy had shown them the way, and they would follow in their footsteps, now and forever. The Earth was safe, and a new chapter in its history had begun, one filled with hope, compassion, and the unbreakable bonds of friendship.